Okay, let's do this. Y'all probably thought when I did this yesterday, it was a one-time thing. And you probably didn't think I was going to answer any follow-up questions. I did put in there, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And I'll do that again this time. And I also put a thing up in the community asking if anybody had some questions for this one. So there's a follow-up question I have to the video we did yesterday on setting objectives. This one is about how to squat 500 pounds in the next year. A couple people had comments about that, had a couple messages about that one, and somebody also, the only comment actually in the community, the only question was how to go about these objectives and not get hurt. So let's use this as a case study. Keep in mind, I'm not going to lay out the programming for the whole year. This whole thing has to happen before that. It's part of that, but it happens before that. So if you're expecting me to lay out 3-week training cycles, 6-week training cycles, that's not going to happen here. This is going to happen before that. So you want to squat 500 in the next year, or before the end of the year. Let's just say that. First question I'm going to have is this doable? Is it what is the squat now? And I actually we put that in the comments to be able to find that out, because if it's in striking range, and that varies, So it can be. I don't know what the technique of the person is, but if it's in striking range, 50 pounds, 70 pounds, my striking range is obviously going to be different than other people. But if it's in striking range, then let's talk about this a little bit. First thing is, if I was communicating with that person face to face, and I'm trying to do this here, talking to a phone, which is kind of weird, but it's not as weird as it was yesterday, so we're getting there. First thing I would want to know is, I'd want to look in their eyes to be able to know what are their nonverbals telling me when they say they want to squat 500 pounds before the end of the year. Because if their attitude about it is, it's no big deal, they need to pick a bigger weight. If they're too scared about it, then they're possibly overreaching. So when you're setting up training objectives like this, it needs to scare you a little bit. There's got to be a little bit of doubt, because that doubt's going to drive. You need that doubt to be able to drive you. So picking that is an important thing. So good drivers for certain situations like this is, say somebody did get hurt, or say somebody's not lifted for a long period of time, and their all-time best might have been 495. Training's been going real well up to this point. They're still kind of stuck around 400, but I mean, they can put that together and they can get this. They can do it. So first thing is to be committed to whatever that objective is, to not make it so it's going to be a guaranteed thing. You got to work for it. You have to work for it. And to not make it so overreaching that, you don't want to say you're going to squat 900. You don't want to put something out there that's so overreaching it can't be done. So it has to be a stretch. This is important. I'm spending a little bit too much time on this because it is important. Now, once you factor that in and you want to do it before the end of the year, when I set up these type of objectives for myself, or people that aren't competitive. If you're competitive, then you're going to have a meet. There's going to be a date that's set for you. When it's just something you want to do before the end of the year, you kind of control that a little bit. I like to try to hit these things in October. At least lay things out to hit it in October, because shit happens, life happens, injuries can come on. So you'll have some time to be able to, if something happens, you'll still be able to get it done before the end of the year. And instead of trying to set this thing up to be, this is going to happen the last week of November. That's, I personally don't like that. I don't like other people to be able to do that. So you got to kind of lay out and say, okay, we want this to happen sometime between middle of November to end of the year. That's when it's going to be. Then again, as I said in the video yesterday, you're going to start working back on this. So how long do you need to peak that strength? And that's going to change depending upon, again, it's going to change the time of the person, it's going to change how good a shape you're in. If I call it getting to the starting line. So getting to the starting line means your GPP, your general physical preparedness, your conditioning, your ability to recover, your ability to adapt. It's good. You're not at your strongest, nor should be. You might be 10-15% off of that, but you're good. Nothing is too screwed up that you're not going to be able to make a final push forward. When you're at that starting gate, how much time do you need, or how much time can you stay there and be able to play with that? So if they don't know, I would say 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks is kind of a good time period. So now you start working that back a little bit and you can start to see where you are now. Do you have time, and you won't in this case, do you have time to make 2 pushes, for that? Not really, but you might have time now to do a quick conditioning phase, maybe a month. And there's different things on elitefts.com, different training cycles that you can look into to be able to do that, but just conditioning GPP type cycles. Run through a quick GPP conditioning cycle, and then run a short 3, maybe 6 week push just to kind of see where you're at. You have time to be able to do that. Then that gives you a little bit better benchmark. You see what I'm doing here? We're kind of figuring out the time, doing conditioning work, getting into there, and just playing it that way. So you'll have some conditioning. You're going to have probably a little push, not a big one because you don't have enough time. A little push that's going to help you determine where some weak points are to be able to kind of work from there. Figure out what those weak points are. Back it again. Push the conditioning a little bit more. And then maybe another little mini push, kind of see where that is. So I like things in 3-week phases. So that allows several of those mini pushes to kind of fall in there. That's kind of how that lays out there. So some of those may be, technical. I would do a lot of technical training right now for 3, 6, maybe even 9 weeks. That can be dynamic work for some. It can be submaximal work for some. It just needs to be a lot of good technical repetitions, because a large part of this 500 may come from just having better squat technique. So if you're 70 pounds off of that, but you can pick up 40 pounds just in better technique, let's get that. That's low-hanging fruit. Let's grab that now. Some of it's also going to be on the conditioning, so you got that time to be able to get conditioned. If this is before the end of the year, you don't have time to be deconditioned. You don't have time to just wait and then try to do a final push come the end of the year. You just don't have that. The other thing that you need to think about is, based upon your own history, what falls apart first, what injuries have come up in the past. All those things need to be addressed now. And a lot of people will say bulletproof. I really don't like that, because it's really not what it is. But you have to build that up to a point that when you get to that final push, that 10 to 12 weeks, you can back off of that some to not have to worry about it, and then just run that way. So I'm just going to leave it with that. Just my point is, and these damn things get too long, I try to keep them under 5 minutes. My point is that you have to look at this from a distance first before you start looking at, okay, I need this. What do people, macro cycle, micro cycle, all that? It's all the same crap. It's training, right? It's planning your training. You have to look at all this first, right? So when is it going to be tested? What's the backup plan if that test date doesn't work? So what's that? How long is it going to take to maximize that opportunity for you to be able to do that? 10 to 12 weeks. What determines what that starting line is for you? What lagging injuries need to be corrected, what technical aspects need to be dialed in 100%, because you don't want to get to that point and then have to correct a lot of stuff. You want to get to that point, push, and drive and work towards that. all these things have to be known before that starting gate, because some things like technical aspects may need 3 or 6 weeks of just pure training for that, its own block just for that. Other aspects, if it's injury rehab, which was the one question that was in there, addressing those type of things, that may have to be its own block too. A lot of these blocks can happen simultaneously, but sometimes they can't. And some blocks are going to have more carryover into other blocks than some will as well. For a quick example, as this keeps getting longer, is a lot of people I know that will do dynamic work, or say technical work, however you want to define that. They can do that, and then that will last them about 4-6 weeks. But then they'll start to lose a little bit of that pop, or they're going to lose a little bit of that technical efficiency. So they can't get away from it for more than that 6 weeks at a time. So they got to cycle it like that. Maximum strength obviously doesn't last as long as what anybody would like it to. But how long will that last? The submaximal strength, how long will that last? All those things got to kind of go into the overreaching aspect of this. If anybody has any other questions that they want to ask, man, put them in the comments below. If you like this kind of format, put them in the comments below. If there's anything else that you want me to answer, put them in the comments below. If you think this sucks, put them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, notify, whatever the crap you're supposed to do to be able to help this. I guess you don't put that in the comments below. And see you next time.